You've obviously got a great passion for real estate. How do you get motivated? How do you keep motivated?
We've got to be positive, and I have a lot of young agents or people into the industry only for a short amount of time who shadow me or ask me questions. You know, I'm really motivated to be successful. How to be successful? And it's a difficult question to answer because there's so many elements in it. But the big thing is it's commitment. So some people are, you know, marginally interested in being successful over, you know, that day, that moment. They might be really, really committed to being successful. But commitment is that day, that week, that month, that year, the whole time they're absolutely committed to be successful. So doing all the prospecting, investing in yourself, getting out there, living outside your comfort zone, connecting with people, being responsible, being respectful all the time, that's commitment.
Enthusiasm and motivation seem to go hand in hand, don't they? If you're not enthusiastic about what you're doing, you can't be motivated.
Yeah.
So it comes down a lot to loving what you do.
Yeah, and vendors will smell it on you. They'll go, you know, he just wasn't there, he wasn't with me, and they'll know. So if you've been really, you know, tired or haven't had enough sleep, or you've watched the Ashes and watched the footy and you haven't really been in tune with what the vendor situation is at, they'll know. They'll really know. So you've got to be, you know, leave everything at the door when you go into an appraisal and you're starting as a fresh and you're really making a huge impression in their life.
Those words we know, like focus, energy, enthusiasm, they're all very relevant, aren't they, in terms of your success?
Also fun, you know, just try and keep things light-hearted. So making vendors smile, you have to be a bit jovial. It's a great connecting tool, and it might just take the conversation to a different platform. If you can just, you know, don't have to tell a joke all the time and repeat the same jokes in the appraisal, but you can just pick up on something and have a bit of a laugh. That really does turn things around and keeps you motivated too, because you're enjoying yourself.
Can't be motivated all the time, Tim. A lot of people are off work, at work, and that's a big mistake. So how do you turn off though? What do you do in your downtime?
So I have little things such as on Wednesday nights I'm home early. Sunday I actually like to cook. So I think cooking and drinking wine at the same time is a fabulous combination. So I do a lot of that. It's good downtime. Spend time with my wife and my children. I go to the gym, I exercise, so I keep myself nice and healthy. Look forward to travel all the time, so I'm always forward thinking. I believe there's three people in this life. There's people that live in the past, there's people that live in the present, there's people that live in the future. I'm present person and future driven. My wife is all present. So if you say to her in the morning, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? She'll go, I don't know, I'm not hungry now, I'll work it out tonight. Well, you've got to shop and you've got to be thinking, this is all now, which is great but bad, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Past is gone. You never reflect on the past.
I find it hard to even remember addresses of people, and I'm a shocker for that.
Is the past there for you to learn from? Is that really all you look at?
Yeah.
Is that where you learn your lessons?
I do, and reflection only, but if something, I just let it go. Just let it, life's too short, move on. Keep moving forward. That's the ultimate thing. I heard the other day, and I think it's one of the real rare things in this job, that you get to learn things from vendors in their house all the time. I'm always picking up things just from the vendors. And you might have a vendor meeting. I had one person say to me, he went to a Jewish synagogue. This has happened to me just last week. And the Jewish guy taught him a big lesson in life. And that is, when you're making a decision on anything, you make a decision and then move forward. And if it's the wrong decision, make another decision, keep moving forward. Oh, gee, that's brilliant. So just keep moving forward all the time. And so I just learn from things like that all the time. And that's really important.
Has there ever been a time in your career which has been absolutely stellar, when you've just said, that's it, no more, don't want to play this game anymore?
A slump?
Yep.
Sure, everyone goes through it. You think, gee, it's too much. Sometimes it just gets too many listings, or, you know, you're just working too hard. And why am I doing this, you know?
Do you think what you said earlier about living in the present and looking to the future, that actually helps you stay positive?
Absolutely. I've got goals. I've got short-term, medium, long-term goals. I've got goals with my EBUs. I've got family goals, I've got travel goals, I've got goals in terms of the directorship. And that's what keeps you on track all of the time. So, for example, within my own business unit, one of my goals is to have 10 to 15 appraisals a week, which will generate me somewhere around roughly 10 listings a month, which will generate about 8 sales per month, which will generate roughly around $100,000 in GCI a month, which will generate on a minimum basis of about 1.2 million. You can have seasonality, nothing in January, a lot coming in, say, March or in October, November, there'll be more sales. But overall, I really pride myself on consistency. So none of this up, down, up, down, up, down. It's the boulder mentality. The boulder mentality for me is that you've got this big boulder, and that's what I call real estate. And for people that are starting off in the industry, they're pushing this boulder, and it's very difficult to move it, and they start to move the boulder, and then the thing stops. Whereas when you start to be in the industry for a little bit longer, and you're getting momentum and confidence and people around you, and listings are coming in. For example, if you've got into a listing presentation and you missed that listing that was your only listing present opportunity, you're shattered. You're absolutely gutted. But if it wasn't, if you were into 10 to 15 appraisals that week and you happen to miss one, which is not good, but it's not the end of the world for me. And so the boulder's just moving. It's got momentum and just rolling on itself.
Two things there, I think. One, you do actually, I can see now you've demonstrated, you do forget the past. You push that away.
Yeah.
You do that by having something to move forward to. So that keeps you motivated?
Yeah, definitely. I love winning. It's one of the biggest things. I love it. I'm incredibly driven by winning, incredibly driven by family, incredibly driven by my goals, but winning is a big thing. So you can't focus on losing, just keep on winning.
Hello and welcome to Auction Update. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic will join me in just a moment, and he'll tell us that winter is having an impact on auction numbers. We'll look at the success rate as well right around Australia. Back in just a moment.
Did you know you can save up to 70% on your staff costs by outsourcing the low-value, repeatable tasks so your team can focus on growing your business? Beepo is an outsourcing provider focused on the real estate industry. With an English-speaking, tertiary qualified and fully trained team in the Philippines, Beepo will give your business the boost it needs to start growing and returning value to you. For more information, visit beepo.com.au.
And joining me with Auction Update, Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic. Hi Kevin, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks Kevin, and you?
Good, my friend, thank you. Well, Melbourne breaks a bit of a record. Let's firstly bring up the clearance numbers for the last week. Melbourne, very, very strong.
Yeah, absolutely. 68.9% is the strongest result for over a year. And I think what's interesting about the Melbourne market is that adjustment from the preliminary rate is very small. We had strong collection success in getting the results in, and it stayed right up there, almost at 70%.
Yeah, well, I noticed that Sydney's down a little bit week on week, down to 60.9. Yeah,
it is. I think, as we discussed, we were hoping that Sydney would remain above 60%, but as you say, that is down a little on last week, and also, the volumes are fairly slight. So, as you said, winter taking effect.
Adelaide ticked up a little bit week on week, up to 53.6%.
Yeah, look, Adelaide is one of those markets that's put in a reasonably steady performance. I mean, when other markets were really soft, Adelaide kept plugging along in the mid-50s, and now other markets are doing more strongly. Adelaide is still in the mid-50s, which is a really stable, sort of respectable clearance rate, I think. Yeah.
Gee, a good result out of Canberra. And most of them reported too. Out of the 41 auctions, 36 reported so far for 55%?
Yeah, so 55% is higher than we've seen out of Canberra for a few weeks now. I mean, in the previous quarter, I suppose, the first quarter of 2019, it looked like Canberra was performing a little better than Sydney, but now it's a little behind. But that's better than we've seen for a few weeks now.
So Brisbane, finally just having a look at Brisbane, down to 31%. That's probably around about the norm for Brisbane, I think, around the 30%.
Yes, certainly in 2019, we've seen those clearance rates between the sort of low 20s and high 30s. So that's sort of in the middle of that range that we've seen this year.
Okay, we'll have a look at the Sydney sub-regions. Haven't had a real chance to have a close look at this. What's your take on this one, Kevin?
Yeah, so we saw some fairly strong performances out of the eastern suburbs. In fact, eastern suburbs was the strongest and busiest suburb this week in the preliminary results, and it's more or less maintained that 85 results, a rate above 70%. Last week, Ride's result was around 70%, and again we see that now. Really good collection rate, 73%. Ryde is one of those suburbs. It's really interesting that the values have actually fallen quite significantly during the last round of market softening, and yet auction results have maintained fairly strong clearance rates.
So, okay. Well, is that about affordability, do you think? Because you'd think that that kind of demand would push the prices up a little bit.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's interesting. To be good to see whether people are moving into Ryde now to sort of take advantage of the price adjustment that's occurred. But the falls we saw in Sydney were more prominent amongst the higher value properties, and Ryde is one of those areas with higher value properties. And those falls happened a little bit earlier. My theory is that the vendors became accepting of the fact that their market had fallen, more realistic reserve prices, better success at auction.
Okay, we'll take to Melbourne now and have a look at the sub-regions there. What are we looking at? Inner East, pretty good at 81%, more than pretty good, actually quite spectacular. And most of those reported too, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, with the Inner East, the successful auctions were by and large reported by Sunday. So in fact, the clearance rate there has not adjusted a great deal from our preliminary figure, but that is a very strong result. There's no doubt. And the Inner South also in our preliminary figures was very high, and that's only a shade behind at almost 77%.
Yeah, I suppose it's not surprising really when I talk there about the number of auctions already being reported. I'd imagine that the agents, when it's as successful as 80+%, they're going to want to be reporting them fairly quickly, aren't they?
Oh, that's definitely the case, and obviously when you do the follow-up, as we do, I mean, we aim to have between 85 and 90% of all results by the time we talk now. But the successes are easier to obtain for properties passed in, and negotiations continue. It may take a few days to work its way through to a confirmed result.
Just before we take you to the auctions for this week, you were kind enough, and we featured it in today's Property News Update, that house that caught on fire at the open house. Yes. Is there any word on that? Has that actually sold again?
No, look, that hasn't sold yet. So the property, as you say, August last year burnt down after the owner decided to welcome people to the open inspection with a roaring open fire, which unfortunately didn't work. Look, it did go to auction on Saturday.
What was the address again, Kevin? Do you know that offhand?
That was 22 Fraser Road in Middle Park. Oh. It was of interest because the previous week we reported the highest auction sale in Melbourne in St Kilda West, so that location is highly sought after. Mm-hmm. The information is it was passed in at auction and is now for sale by private treaty. Mm-hmm. So we will keep an eye on it.
Okay, let's do that. That's very good. Thanks for that update. We're going to give you the auction numbers for this week in just a moment. Before we do, here's James Bell with his auction tip for the week.
Hi, I'm James Bell from the Auction Group. Not every property listed for auction is sold on auction day, and that fear can stop a lot of people using the method without understanding how it is intended to work. Many properties do sell under the hammer on auction day, but sometimes they sell before and sometimes after. It's important to understand auction is a strategy to sell at the best price on the best terms, not just a result on auction day. If an interested buyer is not prepared to take the risk of losing the property to another bidder on auction day, they can place an offer before the auction to secure the property by private negotiations prior to the auction. We normally expect an offer prior to be premium in order to entice the seller to release the property without putting it to competition. If a property does not sell on auction day in that reserve was not met by the bidders, then the seller has gained invaluable feedback about where the current group of buyers in the market positions their property. If the reserve is set too high, there's every chance that the property would not have gone to market with a list price that is too high. And the auction result is a prompt to re-strategise. For a property to sell, regardless of auction or private treaty, the buyer and seller must be in alignment on value. The auction campaign gives buyer and seller time to find that alignment. James Bell for PropertyTV.io.
Yeah, thanks, James. Well, let's have a look, Kevin, at the auctions for this week. What can we see here, mate? I think we've got, two of them are up, 4 of them are down.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously those sort of powerhouse auction markets of Sydney and Melbourne are both down. 469 for Sydney, 497 for Melbourne. That is obviously reflective of winter being the dominant force as far as vendors are concerned. Brisbane's about the same as last week with 112. Perth is one of those that's up a little, 27 versus 25. Adelaide sitting at 66 is down a fair bit from 106 last week.
Well, we'll just see what happens as it pans out the rest of the week. So interesting auction numbers there. And thanks for keeping track on that house sale for us too, Kevin. That's really interesting.
No problem.
And, yeah, very good. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic joins us every Friday. We look at the auctions coming up in the week ahead. And, of course, on Monday, Kevin will be back to give us all the results over the weekend. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic, thanks for your time, mate, and we'll talk to you again on Monday.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Speak to you soon.